Practitioners, welcome to High Magic Practices. We enter now into the most visually compelling and widely misunderstood element of the Key of Solomon, the 44 Holy Pentacles. These symbols appear throughout the grimoire, reproduced in countless editions, hung on walls, printed on talismans, sold in occult shops, copied into personal spell books, yet few who work with them understand their true function, their precise construction, or how they operate within the larger Solomonic system. The pentacles are not decorative. They are not abstract symbols of mystical ideas. They are instruments of authority, weapons of command, talismans of protection. To understand them is to hold the key to the entire ceremonial system. The pentacles occupy a paradoxical place in modern practice. They are simultaneously the most famous and most misused elements of the clavicular. When people think of grimoire magic, they often think of pentacles, elaborate five-pointed stars inscribed with names and strange figures. But this popular image masks something far more precise and functional. The texts describe the pentacles as inscribed on metal, the type of metal corresponding to the planet governing the pentacle. A pentacle of Saturn is engraved on lead, a pentacle of Jupiter on tin, a pentacle of Mars on iron. Some manuscripts, particularly the Hebrew versions, prescribe virgin parchment instead. This divergence across different manuscript families is not a minor variation. It affects how the pentacle is made, how it ages, what materials are available, and what practical work can be done with it. Modern practitioners often overlook these variations, working from composite versions that blend different traditions and lose the precision of the original sources. The construction of each pentacle is neither arbitrary nor decorative. Every element is functional. At the center of the pentacle lies a magical figure or geometric design specific to that pentacle's purpose and planetary attribution. This central design is surrounded by divine names, typically in Hebrew or Latin, or a mixture of both. These names are not random collections of sacred syllables. They correspond to specific sephirothic attributions within the Kabbalistic framework underlying the entire grimoire. The names invoke the divine force, the particular aspect of God's nature that governs the type of work the pentacle is meant to accomplish. Many pentacles also bear the names of archangels and lesser angels associated with that planetary sphere. Surrounding all of this, often inscribed in a circle or series of circles, are magical characters, numerical values, and sometimes verses from the Psalms or other scriptural passages. A single pentacle, properly studied, reveals an entire theological and magical system compressed into a small space. The planetary groupings are the first organizational structure we encounter. The pentacles are not scattered randomly through the grimoire. They are organized by the 7 classical planets and their rulerships. Saturn, the furthest and slowest of the visible planets, rules 7 pentacles. These Saturnine pentacles govern the striking of terror into spirits and forcing their submission, operations against adversaries, and the repression of spiritual pride. The nighttime invocation of Saturnine spirits, operations of ruin, destruction, and death, the defense of the operator during Saturn workings and the dispersal of spirits that guard hidden treasure, the causing of demonic obsession in a person, and the exciting of earthquakes through the power of the 9 orders of angels. Jupiter, the planet of expansion and fortune, presides over 7 pentacles governing the invocation of Jupiter's spirits and the discovery of hidden treasures, the acquisition of glory, honor, and riches, the protection of the operator during spiritual work, the obtaining of assured and prophetic visions, and the warding off of poverty. Mars, the warrior planet, rules 7 pentacles governing the invocation of martial spirits, the healing and curing of diseases, the excitation of war, wrath, and discord among enemies, victory in battle, compelling obedience from demonic presences, invincibility in physical combat, and the causing of hail and tempest. The Sun, that radiant center of divine authority, rules 7 pentacles governing the evocation of divine majesty through the angel Metatron, the repression of the pride of solar spirits, the acquisition of kingship and renown, the ability to perceive spirits who appear invisible, commanding solar spirits to transport the operator across great distances in short time, the operation of invisibility, and the liberation of any person or detained in fetters of iron. Venus, the planet of love and beauty, presides over 5 pentacles governing the invocation of Venus spirits, the acquisition of grace and honor, the obtaining of friendship and love, and the excitation of irresistible love in others. Mercury, the messenger of the gods, rules 5 pentacles governing the invocation of spirits below the firmament, the accomplishment of things contrary to the ordinary order of nature, eloquence and skill in all writings, the understanding and knowledge of all created things, and the penetration of hidden matters, and the opening of all doors and locks by whatever means they are secured. The moon, that ancient guide of travelers and dreamers, rules 6 pentacles governing the calling forth of lunar spirits and the opening of all doors, protection against all perils and tempests by water, defense against all attacks and dangers by night and on journeys, protection from evil sorceries and the knowledge of the virtue of herbs and stones, the obtaining of answers in sleep and the destruction of enemies and nocturnal phantoms, and the causing of heavy rain. The history of the Pentacles in printed editions reveals something important about the text's transmission. When Samuel Liddell Mathers prepared his famous edition at the end of the 19th century, working primarily from 18th century French manuscripts, he reproduced 44 pentacles. This number has become standard in modern. Yet Joseph Peterson's critical edition, which compares multiple manuscript families, reveals significant variation. The Gollancz Hebrew manuscript, one of the principal Hebrew witnesses to the tradition, contains 9 pentacles in a section titled Concerning the Sanctity of the 9 Candelari. Sloane 37, one of the English manuscript witnesses, contains only 13 pentacles, with much of the lettering rendered in Roman rather than Hebrew characters. The French manuscripts that formed Mather's source contain a far larger number, but with considerable variation in design, attribution, and planetary association between different copies. Some manuscripts contain pentacles that do not appear in others. Some assign the same pentacle to different planets in different versions. Some show markedly different designs for pentacles that are nominally the same. This variation is not corruption or careless copying. It reflects the organic evolution of the Solomonic tradition as different practitioners and different magical cultures adapted the system to their own needs and understanding. The function of the pentacles within the working system is dual and specific. During a conjuration, when we have drawn the circle, made the invocations, and are prepared to summon a spirit, the pentacle is shown to that spirit. This is a crucial moment. The pentacle serves as evidence of our authority. When a spirit sees the pentacle inscribed with the divine names and angelic figures pertinent to its sphere, it recognizes that we work under genuine power, under divine mandate. The pentacle compels obedience not through magical force or mystical vibration, but through demonstrated authority. The spirit acknowledges that we command tools of genuine power, and therefore cannot be trifled with. Simultaneously, the pentacle protects us. A pentacle worn or carried operates as a talisman against the particular dangers it is designed to counter. A pentacle of Saturn carried during our operations offers danger and the malice of Saturnine spirits. A pentacle of Mars worn during travel offers protection against weapons and enemies. The pentacle is simultaneously a weapon of compulsion and a shield of defense. The relationship between the pentacles and the psalms is profound and sometimes overlooked. Many pentacles bear specific psalm verses, particularly verses that relate to the pentacle's function and planetary association. A pentacle for revelation of hidden things might bear a verse about God's knowledge penetrating all mysteries. A pentacle for protection might bear a verse about the Lord's shelter and refuge. This is not decoration. The connection to the Psalms roots the Solomonic system in operative psalmody, an ancient Jewish and Christian magical practice in which specific psalms are recited or written to accomplish specific outcomes. The Psalms themselves are understood as containing inherent power, divine wisdom crystallized into verse form. When we understand that certain pentacles are literally visual representations of certain psalms, and that both are meant to work in concert for a specific magical outcome, the entire system becomes more coherent and more powerful. The Kabbalistic substructure underlying all the pentacles is essential to their proper understanding. The divine names inscribed on the pentacles are not interchangeable. They are specific to the Sephirot and to the particular aspect of divine emanation corresponding to each planet, and each planet is further governed by an intelligence, the beneficent celestial governor of that sphere, and a spirit which embodies the more dangerous and compulsive aspects of that same planetary force. This double structure, drawn out most fully in Agrippa's 3 books of occult philosophy, and reproduced in Francis Barrett's Magick, underlies the entire system of pentacle construction. Saturn corresponds to the 3rd Sephira, Bina, and to the divine name Elohim. Its intelligence is Agiel, and its spirit is Zazel. Jupiter corresponds to the 4th Sephira, Hesed, and to the name El. Its intelligence is Eophi-El, and its spirit is Hismael. Mars corresponds to the 5th Sephira, Geburah, and to the name Elohim Gibor. Its intelligence is Graphiel, and its spirit is Bazabel. The Sun corresponds to the 6th Sephira, Tiferet, and to the name Yod-He, Vav-He, Diloah, Ve-Da'at. Its intelligence is Nahi-El, and its spirit is Sohat, whose number is the notorious 666. Venus corresponds to the 7th Sephira, Netzah, and to the name Yod-He-Vav-He, Sabaoth. Its intelligence is Hagiel, and its spirit is Kedamal. Mercury corresponds to the 8th Sephira, Hod, and to the name Elohim Sabaoth. Its intelligence is Tirio, and its spirit is Taf Thatarat. The moon corresponds to the 9th Sephira, Yesod, and to the name Shaddai El-Hai. Its intelligence bears the full ceremonial name, Malka Bed Hashin Ve'ad Ruhot Shiharim, and its spirit is Hasmodai. When we work with a pentacle, we are not simply invoking abstract divine force. We are invoking a specific aspect of God's nature as understood within the Jewish and Christian mystical traditions that form the foundation of all Western magical practice. And we are operating within a precisely mapped celestial hierarchy in which every name, every number, and every geometric figure holds its appointed place. This is why the pentacles work. They are not symbols of power. They are connections to power, anchors that bind us and the spirit we address into a specific and comprehensible relationship to divine reality. The first pentacle of Saturn serves as a useful example of how all this comes together in practice. This pentacle bears as its central figure a square, not a circular design, but a precisely formed quadrilateral, containing 4 divine names, Yod-He-Vav-He, Adonai, Ei, and Ehe-Yeh. They represent specific aspects of divine authority across the full spectrum of Kabbalistic emanation, from the most transcendent to the most immanent expressions of the divine name. Surrounding this central square, inscribed in the outer border of the pentacle, is the 9th verse of the 72nd Psalm, a verse of divine dominion over the nations and their submission before God's appointed sovereign. The combined effect of these elements is functional and precise. When this pentacle is shown to a Saturnine spirit during conjuration, it strikes terror into that spirit and compels its submission. This is not a defensive talisman. It is an instrument of authority in its most direct form, designed to break resistance and establish command. The pentacle is a complete magical statement, a coherent invocation of divine power, expressed through geometry, sacred names, and scriptural verse, compressed into a single inscribed surface. The variations in pentacle design across manuscript families point to something important about how we should approach the tradition. There is no single correct version of the pentacles. The tradition is not frozen, not entirely defined by a single authoritative text. Different practitioners in different times and places adapted the pentacles to their understanding, their needs, and their resources. A Kabbalist in medieval Egypt might inscribe a pentacle differently than a Christian magician in Renaissance France. A Hebrew-speaking practitioner would invoke different divine names than a Latin-speaking one. Yet the underlying principle remains constant. The pentacle is an instrument of divine authority, a geometric and linguistic embodiment of power, a tool for manifesting the operator's will within the limits prescribed by the planetary hours and the spirit's natures. When we work with pentacles today, we inherit not a fixed system, but a living tradition. We can study the historical forms to understand the principles, but we can also adapt our practice to our own context and understanding. For those of us seeking to work with the pentacles, several principles emerge from this study. First, we must understand the planetary attribution of the work we undertake and know the pentacles belonging to that planet. Second, we must recognize that the pentacle is not magical in itself. It is powerful because it is an instrument through which divine authority is expressed. Third, we must approach the pentacles with reverence, not superstition, understanding the theological and Kabbalistic principles they embody. Fourth, we must recognize that different manuscript traditions offer valid variations, and that our choice of which version to work with is itself a meaningful act. Finally, we must remember that the pentacle is always a means to an end. It serves the conjuration, the talisman, the broader magical work. It is never an end in itself. When these principles guide our practice, the pentacles cease to be mysterious symbols and become what they truly are, instruments of power and protection, weapons and shields in our careful work with the unseen forces that govern the world. In this episode we have established the foundation, what the pentacles are, how they are constructed, how they function within the conjuration, and the complete Kabbalistic and celestial map that underlies all 44 of them. That foundation now makes it possible to examine each planetary group in depth. In our next episode, we descend into Saturn, the slowest, heaviest, and most feared of the classical planets, and walk through all 7 of its pentacles one by one, from the terror-striking square of 4 divine names to the earthquake skeel of the 9 orders of angels. Each of those 7 pentacles is a complete magical instrument. If you like this research, we invite you to like and subscribe. It is what makes this depth of work possible. To our Patreon supporters, the resources whose commitment sustains this series are what allow it to be built with the care and precision it requires, and we are genuinely grateful for that support. May the names we have studied tonight be a map and a key to all who carry this practice forward. May every emblem of power serve as a reminder that true authority begins with understanding. See you next time.